Hey, this is Alexa Batrick, and this is my week 3 Life Lab reflection. Um, I want to reflect on a series of conversations that I had with my 8-year-old son this week that were extremely difficult, significantly triggering. Um, he's been having some issues with bullying, and he's taken a hard hit to his mental health. Um, and on Tuesday, we were at the park with our friends, and he just completely broke down. And when I got over to him, the things that he was saying and the volume he was using to express his frustration um, was extremely difficult to hear. Not just for me, but for the other children in the park with us, and around us, and also the other parents that were within earshot of what my 8-year-old was saying. And initially, I noticed that I I didn't come into the conversation with good communication skills. I initially was just trying to shut it down. I was trying to problem solve as fast as possible. I was minimizing, I was pacifying, um, and I was really just like, Asher, we've got to get out of here. Like we can't have this conversation here. Um, and I'm not entirely sure what part of the conversation, like where that switch was, but at some point he just crawled in my lap and he was just sobbing into my chest, and that for me was the things that I had said to him and the way that I had communicated to him, when I started validating his experience, even though the things that he was saying to me were extremely triggering. I was able to validate him and say, I can hear that you're really hurting right now. I can hear that you're having a really hard time right now. And just kind of reflecting back to him the situation without like specifically reflecting back to what he was saying, because I didn't want to amplify the situation. Um and so, kind of as I mentioned those lists, the list on the assignment, um the tactics that I came into this situation were not um weren't great communication skills, because I was making it about me, um, instead of me. Not like in a selfish way, but anybody who's a parent can understand how in overwhelming situations you just kind of want to squash it. Um, and there was a lot of anxiety and fear and just a lot of things. I'm sure I don't know if I specifically mentioned in this class, but for some of the students that are also that were in the previous class with me, my son has autism, and he's extremely high functioning. He's extremely intelligent. Um, he's like young Sheldon. Like he has this insane IQ and memory, and just like the things that are inside of his brain are incredible. And I I can't wrap my head around most of the things that he says. But when it comes to emotional intelligence and communication, he is definitely just a little boy. Um, and so, really, in those moments, I feel like with him, that's where I get to be his mom instead of just like side by side this person that I'm also like growing up with. Um, and so I, as hard as the conversation was, I really do love having these conversations with my son about hard things because like he's he's young enough where you can really see the wheels turning when something switches, like when that light switches on for him and he goes, "Oh, like this is what I can understand and like this is why I can see your perspective." And he starts to like everything kind of opens up for him. And that's really interesting to see as a parent. Um, so that for me is kind of like this gift that I get to teach my child how to be better at communication as I'm learning how to be better as well. Um, Obviously, the barriers in this situation were he was extremely escalated, and so was I. And that in itself, like, it's really hard to listen when you're struggling like that. Um, and once I was able to kind of regulate myself in outside of the situation a little bit, I was able to pick up more on some of his nonverbal cues in the interaction. Um, obviously, like his body language, the emotion that he was displaying, not just the words that he was saying. Um, and then I think that the way that I could have made this situation better was actually something that we talked about in our group discussion for the group project coming up, is to really make sure that you come into a conversation like you check yourself before you come in. And I think that's a really valuable way to start. If I hadn't been like, oh my gosh, I hear my kid screaming, like if I had been able to take a breath and be like, he's not hurt, I see him, hey, what's going on, bud, rather than what is happening, like that's a very different like way to um, either connect or disconnect with a child. So, would I have done it differently? Absolutely. Did everybody end up okay? Yes. It over the course of a couple of days, we did come to create a safety plan and got some help for him and got him to a stable place where he feels like you are a person I can trust. And I'm also to this place where I don't need to watch my child like a hawk, which is a scary place to be. But I'm also feeling very grateful for the support that we had and also the communication of the outside support that we received this week as well. And I hope this video, being almost 9 minutes, is not too long.